Weekly Show with David J. Maloney. This week, David talks to filmmaker Blerta Basholli. And now, here's your host, David J. Maloney.
Welcome to everyone at home, and I would normally say our studio audience to the weekly show. I'm your host, David J. Maloney. I say normally because we'd usually shoot the show before a small studio audience at the Hard Rock Hotel and Casino, but we are still shooting our last few shows from home due to coronavirus protocols. We hope to gain clearance to get back to our live-to-tape shows real soon. So, according to the Daily Mail, President Biden raised eyebrows when he broke wind at the UN Climate Summit. Witnesses said it was so loud, Joe actually woke himself up. And Globe magazine is reporting that Bill Clinton supposedly has just 6 months to live. The former president characterized the situation saying, "So many women, so little time." In Decatur, Georgia, a 20-year-old man was arrested for shooting another man at the public library. The librarian was visibly upset in front of reporters, and when asked for comment, she said she was angry the gunman didn't use a silencer. Speaking of libraries, the last time I went to one, I asked if they had any books on paranoia. The librarian replied, "Yes, they're right behind you." With the purchase of MGM Studios, Amazon would own The Wizard of Oz. That means in future showings with Prime shipping, Dorothy could get home in just one business day. Oh, and did you hear this? A new study has concluded that unattractive men make better mates. Yeah, nice try, ugly scientists. Lastly, November is Manatee Awareness Month, and we recently celebrated Veterans Day. This raises an interesting question. Why do veterans only get one day and manatees get a whole month? There's no joke there, just a confounding question. On tonight's show, we've got a filmmaker making waves in the festival circuit and internationally. Her feature film Hive, detailing the true story of Fahrije Hoti, became the first film in history to win all three of the main awards at offer at the prestigious Sundance Film Festival. The film has now become the official submission from Kosovo for Oscar consideration. Here to chat about the film is writer-director Blerta Basholli. So don't go anywhere, we'll be right back. Our featured guest tonight is the filmmaker behind the first film in history to sweep all three major awards at the Sundance Film Festival with her film Hive. The film follows the true story, is it Fahrije Hoti?
Fahrije Hoti.
In the aftermath of the Kosovo War and the Kosovan official submission for Oscar consideration at this year's Academy Awards. Here to talk about the film is writer and director Blerta Basholli. Blerta, welcome to the show.
Thank you. I'm really happy to be here.
Congratulations on a fantastic film and a fantastic achievement. Your film, Hive, is truly a phenomenal film.
Thank you so much. I'm really glad you liked it. And, we worked hard on it. We really worked with a lot of passion and put a lot of effort in it. So it really feels great to hear that from you and everyone, of course.
So, and for those who don't already know you, you've had a relatively long career working in the film industry as an assistant director leading up to this moment. Was your goal always to become a writer-director?
Yes, I was actually assistant directing only because I really like being on set. So whenever I could not direct, I was like, I don't want to do any other jobs rather than filmmaking. So I jumped in as a first AD in a lot of feature films. But I have written and directed a lot of short films and documentaries on the way as well. So for me, it was always writing and directing, but assistant directing was instead of working in a bank or something, I was like, I'd rather just be on a film set and do first ADing.
So growing up, did movies or TV play a big role in your life?
Yes. Well, I grew up, for Kosovo, a lot of people really know about the war period, but we really lived in a long time in occupation. And we actually didn't even have our own TV, because the TV was taken. So it was the TV always in Serbian, but then Then we had a cinema, which didn't have a lot of great films. So we really mostly would watch the films on TV. And that would be usually through my father, who really watched a lot of Western films, because he really likes image and he doesn't like to read a lot of subtitles. So he was like, I like films when it goes 20 minutes and I'm just watching John Wayne and then in a horse and nobody talks in 20 minutes. But that, I think really that what's stayed with me was really the composition and the imagery of those films.
You grew up in that area, no?
Yes.
And so to have her as the kind of the lead character in this film on this subject matter, coming from where you come from, does that make it extra special?
Yes, of course. I mean, for me, it was like really at the beginning. I mean, I come from Kosovo. I don't live in the same exact area where she comes from, but my father does come from a village, so I'm not so like distant from the rural life either. So for me, it was, in a way, it happened accidentally that I heard of the story and I really liked the story. But then when I met her in person, it was really her that mostly inspired me and like motivated me to do this kind of story, like as a character driven story and more focused even camera wise on her. But it does make it extra special because I come from there. A lot of the women really remind me of my mom, or of my grandmother, of myself, of my sisters. So really it is like bringing all these women in my life from Kosovo, like putting in this one character. And in many levels, although I haven't lost anyone during the war, but while writing the script, I became a mother. I grew up as a woman. I grew up even while making the film, not just literally growing up because of the years. So in a way, it was in many levels very personal to me as a story and as a character. So it made it very special and more, I think, even more emotional for me to go through those scenes and those moments, even while writing and directing it in a way.
Now, when you heard her story, how soon after that did you decide this is a story I have to tell?
I think it was 5 minutes, to be honest. So it was like I was in New York then when my husband was watching, my then boyfriend was watching the TV. He still watched a lot of Kosovo TV. So he called me and he was like, this is a really interesting story for your next feature film. And I was actually had another script which I was developing on my last year at NYU. And then he called me and he was like, oh, I really think this is a story for your next feature film. And we sat down and listened to her story. I was like, I think you're right. We should really go and meet this woman. And really, we went back to Kosovo and met her almost immediately. And as I said, it was her story. But then when I met her in person, I was like, oh, and actually, we just went there to ask her, would she accept us to make a film about her? Because the decision was made in a way right away.
And for those of our viewers who haven't picked up on it yet, this movie is based on a true story. And when you met her for the first time, did your expectations of what she would be like measure up to reality? I mean, was she as you imagined?
Because she was just strong figure standing in front of us, telling about everything that was happening to her, how she dealt with it, what she thought, and why she decided to just continue and women together with her. And I was just really amazed. I was like, there's a businesswoman, a psychologist, a visionary, I don't know, a politician all in one. And she didn't even go to university because she didn't have a chance to study or anything. But then I think she was just a born activist, or I don't know what to call her, because she did so many things more than any of us could do for herself, but also for all the women around her that are still working with her in a way.
Well, and it's interesting that you would say that, because there's so many touching, delicate subjects tackled in this one film. I watched it, and I mean, societal structures, patriarchal systems, politics, women's rights, war, crime, the loss of loved ones, the whole concept of mourning, and when do you start it if you if the person that you're mourning hasn't been found yet, dead or alive. And you're telling a true story here. How did you approach writing the film with so much that you had to unpack?
Exactly. That was the first comment when I was developing a script. I was on a producing workshop, and one of the mentors, he was a script consultant, and I was talking a little bit to him, and he was like, "Blerta, you have too many lines in this film." And I was like, "I do, but I can't kill any of them because it's the way the story is." And when I was talking, I mean, I had to kill a lot of things to get a lot of things out of the script. So that's in a way to focus the story on her and really decide what part of her life I want to focus on. Because as I say it a lot of times, like I could have made many films about her, what she went through the war, what she went right after the war, and even today, like, I don't know, I think I could have just made a lot of films about her. But then, you have to make a decision so people can follow in a certain way. But then even on that amount of time, it's a lot of lies. It's the bees, it's a husband, it's this and that. And I kind of, it was a struggle because I really wanted those combined because they were true. It's not that I wrote a fiction line of her story. Everything was true in her, what happened to her. So I was really trying to make it as natural and as fluid as it can be.
Why do you think her story is so relevant today? I mean, in your mind, what does her story mean, and what does it have left to teach us?
I just hope, in terms of teaching, I hope it will just make us think more about how we treat other people, whether that's for women or men or a person who's a different nationality or race or equality, sexuality, or even gender or whatever. I hope just it makes us think about it. That we are all human beings, that we're all struggling with something, that it's not easy to live in for anybody. So I hope we just make us think and think about each other and raise a discussion into like just making a more equal world for everybody, because this is, of course, a women's story, and I'm sure more women will connect to this story than men and other people. But for me, I hope it will really, people will connect to the character as a human to human rather than just women to women.
Jemi mbledhur këtu, sigur edhe do të bëjmë gjithmonë, derisa ta gjejmë secilin person.
Kemi me marrë edhe diçka tjetër këtë muj?
Kena probleme serioze me parën organizatë.
Neve nuk na vynë ndihmat, as fundet. Neve na vynë puna. A nuk peshet që as njëra nuk jena mira? Kam të dashtë me njës një punë me kret gratë Krushës. Me maru a i varë për me shqip.
Na i varë kena maru të njëtën, që të punë di me kry mas mire.
Po thojnë, ti shkon agimi gjallë, marrë i kishar për teje.
Qka do që të bësh, e ro këtë familjen, nëse si e t'ju bëhe slab djallin tem, unë hala jam gjallë.
Njerëzit ngajnë, iken, sidomos kur tutën. Që shmuj me ditë që dhe ato e kanë gjujt. Qka nëse ka iknojnë?
Vetë nuk mund është mi kry këtë. A ke lyp me t'ni mua ju?
Qysh për shkon, gra? Mirë.
Ja bajmë na diqysh. Veç ti na kalzona mund është me shqip, tjera të krejt na i krymë.
Për më hatë, gjumë shindurë.
I want to talk about the production of the film. What was the process like shooting the film itself? Did you guys shoot on site in Kosovo or elsewhere, or a little bit of both?
We shot in Kosovo. We could not shoot in Krusha, the exact village, because that village was burnt during the war. So most of the houses were really burned down, and people had to rebuild them. So it looks new if you go and shoot there. So we found another village which is a little bit abandoned, but the houses really look old and war torn. So it really fit the after the war story. And then of course, a couple of scenes were in Pristina and the way and in another village, the river. So it was the whole film was shot in Kosovo, but in different places.
From a cinematography standpoint, how did you go about deciding the tone and look of Hive?
Yes, that was my from the moment I met Fahrije, I really had this feeling that this film should be really realistic, and it has to be really documentary style. So in a way, I had these decisions on mine, and then I was talking to two DPs, but then Alex Bloom, although I never met him before, he shot a film of my friends and I liked his work. When I met him in person, actually not in person, we were like having a Skype, and he really liked the script and he responded to it. And he said, I think I see it a really documentary style. And he mentioned Rosetta from Dardan Brothers, which was one of the main films that really inspired me about this film. And I was like, oh, it has to be you, because really he pointed out Rosetta without even me saying anything about it. And I thought that we really just clicked on the idea, on the tone. But also when I met Fahrije in person, and because she herself really had a great impact on me, I really wanted this to be a character-driven story, but also a character, also a camera focused on her.
It's interesting. And now that you say that, she is consistently through the film.
Yeah, she's in every scene. That's why I'm always praising Ilka, because it's her biggest role in a feature film, and she was really amazing about it. She worked for 12 hours every day in every scene, and it's quite a physical role. It's not emotional and physical. So she had to do a lot of work and sometimes be in a very deep water and things like that. But she was really, I mean, she loved the character, and she's a professional actress, and she was really amazing to work with.
So, and what was it like working with her? I mean, was there ever any doubt in your mind that she'd be the one to play the part, or did you know like right away? Did it just?
Oh, no, I had no doubts, to be honest, and I was even more stubborn about it, because Ilka Gosh is a really well-known actress in Kosovo. She was on a TV series, which was a sitcom, one of the first ones after the war, and a lot of people, and she was in a lot in theater and a little bit on feature films. But then she had a break, and she really, after the TV series, she really took a break and didn't attach to many projects. And people really were like, oh, she hasn't acted in a long time, and plus she really looks urban and modern. And I was like, no, I really think it's her. I mean, I really don't. I was like, I have no doubt about her.
Now, of course, this story is heavily connected to what happened in the Kosovo War, and the specter of that war really kind of plays an ominous background character in the film, kind of like a dark spot that you can only bear to see or hear about in moments, which I think is exactly what I felt watching the film. Was it important for you to help others see that experience of what it must have been like for people like her to live in that kind of grief?
Yes, because for me, I really do feel it must be really hard. I didn't really lose anyone during the war. Of course, I was there during the war, and then I left with my mother and my brother. My father decided to stay with my sisters and so on. So we did really, even living in the city, we did go through a lot, but then rural areas were more attacked, and people really lost a lot of members of their families, and they still don't know where they are. So when I asked Fahrije, do you still wait for him? Do you still think he's going to come back? And she's like, sometimes I do. Sometimes I think, what if he comes back? And he just shows up. And I was like, 20 years after the war, she still thinks that he might show up one day. And I'm like, how do you live with that? I mean, losing someone is hard anyway, but losing
Never finding them.
never finding them, never knowing what happened to them.
Given what you've experienced, shooting a film must feel like something easy, but we all know that's not exactly how it works. Was it hard making this film logistically, physically, or otherwise because of where you had to go to do it?
It was mostly emotionally hard. Of course, we have low budget films, and like, let's say, production wise, a lot of things we had to struggle and be creative about. Physically, I don't think so much, or because of where we shot it, but mostly it was emotionally, because we all had gone through the war and lived through it. And then just thinking about these people, that is why that scene exists, and it is the way you exactly feel about it. Because, as I said before, I had a lot of struggle deciding how to end this film, because how does it, I think even if they come back, it would be difficult. Even if they come back alive, would be difficult. And of course, that's the best option and the happiest one, but I think it would have been hard anyhow. So and plus that there is no hope that they're gonna come. I mean, I think they still have hope they're gonna come back, but just the idea of having hope and sometimes losing the hope, sometimes really thinking that you're finding them, and maybe sometimes you think that you really want to know, but a lot of times they don't really even want to know that they are dead. Maybe some people really want to live. There are a lot of people who know, and they got their DNA tests and everything, that they don't accept the truth. They don't accept that.
So the film Hive is now the first film in Sundance history to win all 3 major awards on offer. Were you there at the festival when you found out you won? And what did you remember about winning that experience?
The Sundance this year was virtual, and I never went to Sundance even before. And although I always wanted to go, so I was really hoping that my family is going to go to Sundance, and that I will go there and meet some of my friends, but also just really always wanted to go to Sundance. And because it was all virtual, we were in Pristina, and for me, it was really important to be in Sundance, maybe because I studied here, but I just always really loved the festival. And I think it really gives a lot of focus on the indie films. So I thought that was really always amazing about it. So I was really happy that it got in competition, and then our producers were saying, "Oh, we will win an award," and I was like, "Come on, people!" And it's hard; it's a big competition. Let's not have high hopes.
Well, Blerta, thank you so much for joining us. Sadly, we are out of time, and of course, congratulations on the Oscar nomination, and I wish you so much continued success. Thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you so much. I was really nice talking to you. Thank you so much.
Ladies and gentlemen, Blerta Basholli.
That's our show for tonight. A special thanks to Blerta Basholli for joining us, and thank you so much for watching. Stay safe, everyone.